I started my journey as a designer when I was 16 in high school, and I've been doing graphic design in some form for 10 whole years now. During these past 10 years, I've went to university for design, worked at a design agency in Hollywood, led brand design for a startup, successfully freelanced the past 3 years, and have gained an audience of over hundreds of thousands of followers online with my work. So with that being said, I wanted to share with you all 10 lessons from 10 years as a graphic designer. Let's get into it. All right. So this first thing I want to talk about is this idea of where the hell do I put this? I'll put it down. Finding your calling. And by that, I mean there's a lot of avenues you can go down as a designer. You can work in an agency. You can work in-house. You can work freelance. You can do content stuff. These days, I do a mix of the content and the freelance for the most part. And I've found that that's what I gravitate towards most. But there is no one size fits all solution. It really depends on what type of designer you are. I didn't really thrive too much in the agency setting because I feel like I wasn't the type of person who wanted to grind all day on one big project and work on it for months and stay super late at a place. It's not all bad. There is a lot of fulfillment in that kind of workflow in that setting, and you get to work on really cool projects. I just realized it wasn't for me. Working in-house as a designer, leading a brand design at Art of Sport, I really liked that because I got to do a lot more art direction, do a lot more big picture stuff, like work for this brand and really flesh it out and fully, just take it to its limits and do stuff that got me out of my comfort zone and that helped me grow a lot. But where I've thrived the most is definitely with freelance and content stuff. Another thing I realized that I like the most about freelance is that I don't have to answer to any specific person. I get to be my own boss, and the work that I do further contributes to my own success. And if I want to work harder and make more money, I have control of that, not just working on someone else's dream. I get to work on my own. If you're first graduating or something, figure out what you like. Try working at a company, try working at a studio, try working at an agency, try doing freelance, do some content stuff. Dip your toes in everything and really figure out what your calling is and what you're best at. And from there, just fully flesh it out and keep moving. And once you figure out what you like, you can fully dive into it and you don't have to worry well, maybe I'll like that, or maybe I would have liked working in a studio, because if you gave yourself the already kind of opportunity to try those things first, you don't have to worry about all the what ifs. You can focus on more of the why nots. And if you're wondering why I'm standing over here, even though I went to get a coffee, it's because I was way too embarrassed to set up my camera at the place because it was so busy and I didn't want to talk there. But that was number one, find your calling. On to the next one. The next thing I want to talk about is finding your community. And I literally came to this park just so I could film on this lion thing because I always thought it was so cool. And what I mean by finding your community is, especially as a freelancer, design is such an isolated job that it's so hard for us to find connection with our own peers and find other people to work with. And for a while, I was working as a freelancer and pretty much solely working by myself in my office every day and not really connecting with others and kind of just creating in this echo chamber. I think the pandemic really exasperated those feelings and made us a lot more vulnerable and lonely, but at the same time kind of okay with our loneliness and think it's okay that we just work by ourselves. And this feeling mainly applies to just now that I'm a freelancer and content creator, but even when I was working as an employee at an agency, I had a lot of trouble connecting with other designers. And then once I finally did, it made a huge difference. I met a lot of my design friends, they know who they are lately, that at Adobe Max and at some other live events, and I never knew how much I needed that. Us creatives need community, and we need people to share ideas with, and we need the ability to just have someone to bounce ideas off of and have someone to talk to and have someone to talk to about pricing, so we can all kind of lift each other up, because a rising tide lifts all ships. And social media is great for this because it can allow you to meet those people and you don't have to fully just walk up to them right away. You can approach the topic online first, and Now that I've met some of my friends that I knew online in real life, it's one of the greatest things. And I just encourage you all to reach out to the people in your local community, people you look up to online, or just other designers and creatives in the space. Find people whose work you like, try to talk to them, and become friends with them. And I think it just creates for a better experience as a designer overall. Number three is rest. Rest is not just the absence of work, it's an equally as important part of the creative process. And I wish I learned this earlier. I spent so much of my early freelance career and early career in college as a designer pushing myself to burnout and starting to get to the point where I was resenting the stuff that I loved in the first place, design. It sucks when it gets perverted by overworking yourself in college, the pressures of capitalism and wanting to just make more money, and overall just the feeling of maybe it's an ego thing or what, but wanting to just get better and be more recognized as a creative in the space. But you cannot do that without a healthy schedule. Everyone has different bandwidths and different personal issues and a different life. So you cannot really give a one size fits all for this. But for me, I try to have a balanced schedule of working for the most part around 10 a.m. to 4 to 5 p.m. But that is just one piece of it. Yes, I have that consistent normal schedule Monday through Friday, but I make sure to make time after the work days for rock climbing, hanging out with friends, going to bars, doing my other hobbies, playing video games, playing the Resident Evil 2 remake right now. It's really hitting that itch of midnight gaming, getting scared in my room. But find things that you enjoy outside of work, go out and do that and chill and relax, and then you can come back fully refreshed and put all that creative energy into the work. And I think that we look at rest sometimes as like something we just do when we're not working or something to do when there isn't deadlines or schedules, but you need to respect yourself and your mental health and take the breaks when your body and mind is telling you to. I'm not preaching like a full on just do whatever you want, dilly dally, hang out all day. We got to lock in. I understand that. But you need to recharge so you can be your best self. If you're always operating from a level of burnout, you're never going to fully get to the kind of creative solutions that you want. Make sure you treat rest with just as much respect as you do the actual work. What's funny is this place is called Big Tree Park, so it's really on the nose. This next one is be a sponge. And what I mean by that is we need to go out and live and absorb new ideas and new design in the world so we can put them back into our own graphic design work. I recently went on a trip to Europe and it was so cool seeing all the different types of graphic design, especially that cool typography and Swiss design. But it's not even just direct design that you should be absorbing and being a sponge like too. It's just everything around you. Nature, something as beautiful as this giant tree can inspire some future design work. And I think when we're too locked in the office and constantly working, it can be easy to run out of ideas. But you have to go out into the world and recharge that creative energy and get inspired by new things around you. And as well as learn from others, learn from mentors, learn from your bosses. Every single person you meet knows something you don't. And that applies to art and design as well. Learn from your friends. I have so many talented friends that I learn new like tricks in Photoshop on, learn about new fonts, learn new resources, new designers to check out. Every time you talk to someone, just ask questions, be curious, and let them speak. Let them tell you all the things that they know. And this doesn't even have to be hyper specific to design. Even talking to your grandparents, your parents, learn something new. And who knows, maybe later down the road, that'll manifest into some cool design thing. And if it doesn't, you had a cool conversation. But it's just so important to travel and have hobbies outside of design and do things that way you have subject matter, taste, and your own personality to put into the work. You can learn the skills, you can learn the programs, you can learn design theory, this and that, but you cannot teach taste and personal experience. You have to go out and kind of harvest that yourself. Almost dropped my phone down this entire tree. Go out and live and take those memories, experiences, and energy from the world and put it into your design work. I promise you it'll be better than just working isolated all the time inside an office somewhere. All right, so this next one is about using social media to your advantage. I would not be anywhere near where I am right now in my career without social media. It obviously has its pros and cons. You cannot talk about social media without talking about all the downsides. Feeling bad about yourself or comparing yourself to others in your work, being on your phone too much, being chronically online, just a lot of the detrimental mental health effects that come with social media. However, I still believe that the pros far outweigh the cons when it comes to being an artist or a designer online. I've gotten so many opportunities from posting my work, and you have to just use social media and not let it use you. And what I mean by that is make sure you're having a healthy amount of more output than input. You can only take in so much from that stuff online. You need to be putting out your own work. I've used social media to connect with other people that I've met that become great friends for me now. It's allowed me to get clients, it's gotten me work, it's allowed me to share my work outside of an echo chamber and get feedback from people I respect that I would never be able to talk to in just like a one-on-one setting in real life. And quite honestly, I wouldn't be able to speak to all of you. What we're doing right now, yeah, it's YouTube, but this is still social media. Like, sharing ideas and getting better together would not exist without social media. I would argue that it's easier than ever with how these algorithms work, and just anyone can blow up on a reel or a TikTok, and you just really have to figure out the ways to use it to your advantage though. And like, yeah, that does mean sometimes you have to play some silly little games and make some reels and point up at text like that. But it has been a game changer. Clients would never have found me without social media. They would have never found my website. They would have never found my email. I would just be floating around in the design ether somewhere. It's insane to me that I have over 100,000 followers now on Instagram, and if it's working properly, I can reach that many people just by just posting work. And that's something we've never been able to do before. And I think we're doing ourselves a disservice if we just say like, oh, I hate social media, I'm not even going to use it, like I'm an artist and this and that. And like, you don't have to use it and consume and use it for the social aspect, but I think that you should be posting your work online at the very least. Even if you aren't doing reels or whatever, even if you're not making content, post your art online. And sometimes just getting over that hump or that fear of posting it helps you feel more comfortable in your ideas later. So I know so many people who are just scared to put themselves out there because of rejection, or they don't want to be judged by their work, but we all had to start somewhere. My work used to be terrible and I was still posting it online. And since I think I was doing that for so long, it allows me to be more comfortable doing it to this day. I don't think it's a absolute must as a designer to use social media, but for me, it completely changed my life. And I think that if something as stupid as posting your work on Instagram can do that, why not try it? So I went to the climbing gym, so I have chalk all over me, and I was editing the video a little bit, and I realized one of the segments I shot was out of focus, so I wanted to do it again. The one I wanted to reshoot is that people skills matter just as much as the design skills. And what I mean by this is that like, you could be the best designer in the whole world, but if you're not someone that people like to work with, or you're not someone who is just a good human, you're not going to get very far in your design career. I've had so many people like refer me and say good things about me and get me more clients and get me more work. And I've had people who I collaborated with say that it was a great experience. And that is all on purpose. Like, I try my best to treat people with the most respect and just be someone who people like to work with, be agreeable, Be good at emails, be good at networking when you're in person, talk to people, just be a cool person. And the best way to be interesting is to be interested. Just be genuinely interested in the people you talk to, and they'll want to work with you. And it's like sometimes the best designer in the world isn't who's going to get hired for the project. It's who's fresh in someone's mind. I've had plenty of times where I by no means think I'm the most talented designer or anything like that, but I was fresh in someone's mind, or I know someone, and sometimes that's all it takes. And I think it works like this in most careers. It's not just, it's the whole like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I know it's kind of cliche, but cliches are a thing for a reason. It is pretty true to a certain point. And this isn't to say that you don't need the design skills. I think it's very important to be a good designer and, have the skills to back it up. Because once you get to the who you know, you need to know the what for sure. But getting there is a different story. It's really important to just have those people skills, and this can work when you're an employee as well. Like, be a good employee, be a good boss, be a good coworker, whatever it may be. Just be a good collaborator. Even something as simple as being good at emails, or being on time. The simple things matter. Pay attention to the small details and just give it your best effort whenever possible. When you're meeting people, when you're emailing, when you're working, whatever it may be. Developing your skills as an all-around human will definitely help you in your design career. On to the next one. For me, design is art. For some other people, it isn't. That's something I mainly realized getting into the professional workforce after college. A lot of designers and people who work with designers see design purely as something to benefit capitalism and purely something to just solve problems. Clear and cut, design isn't art and art isn't design. I made an entire video on this subject. That's kind of how passionate I am about it, so you can check that out. I'll link it below. I don't feel that way. I think we need more art inside design. And I think that, yeah, maybe not all design is art, but a lot of it is. And I feel like the type of design work that I do falls into that category of art, at least to a certain extent. It at least lands somewhere on that spectrum between art and design. And what I mean by some people don't see that way is you're going to work with clients who see you as just a craftsman that work within these tools and not an artist who has their own expression or personal voice to add to the project. That can be fine for some people, but for me, I want to be a collaborator and be someone who, yeah, can get a brief, see it, and solve the problems, but also come and add my own artful, perspective and taste and personality to the actual project. And I've worked with bosses who don't really see design as art either, and that's harder because you're working at a company, so it is a lot more to, benefit this greater capitalist system. But it started to kind of bum me out that no one wanted to see the art in the design anymore. You kind of just have to accept the fact that there are going to be people who don't see what you do as art. And you have to find your own fulfillment outside of that. Or find the people who do view it as art and work with them. And it's fine. Everyone doesn't have to have the same opinions on things. There's even the most talented designers that I look up to that probably don't even have the same thought process on art and design that I do. And that's fine. That's what's beautiful about it. There's a million different perspectives and we can all have our own opinion on it and all just do what we want to do. But just don't be surprised, if you do feel like you fall more into the art part of design, if people don't receive that quite as well or people don't agree with you on that opinion. Fuck them, it doesn't really matter. You just do what you want to do. Do design if you see design purely as design. Do design if you see it as art also. Everyone can do what they want. That's what's beautiful about it. It's amazing to learn Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, Procreate, whatever design programs you use. All that stuff is just the software or the tool for the actual design fundamentals and design process and art. Good design knowledge transcends whatever digital space or tool we're using because design existed way before Photoshop and way before Illustrator, and people were doing stuff by hand, people were drawing, people were working with print, people were working with stamped type, whatever it may be, but the fundamentals were still there. When people were doing poster designs with cool layouts and the Swiss modernist grid stuff that I'm really into, they weren't working in Photoshop. They were laying that out with different techniques. Yeah, it's important to know some of these softwares and find one that you're comfortable with and run with it, but what's more important is becoming a good designer, not good at Photoshop or good at Illustrator. If you learn some of the design fundamentals like hierarchy, color, layout, things like that, it transcends any workspace that you're in. You can apply that to different mediums. You can apply that to print. You can apply that to digital. You can apply it to working in Photoshop, working in Illustrator, working with physical collage, physical layout, hand laying type, letraset, whatever, you get the point. And because who knows, that now we're working in digital spaces mostly, but with VR and AR and all this AI shit, everything advancing so fast, we may not even be working in like Photoshop or whatever in the next 5-10 years. We may be working in some augmented reality thing where you lay out layers and you can see stuff on a 4D, 3D plane, whatever. With how fast technology moves, I wouldn't regard yourself so much with like getting really good at a program. So yeah, get good at design, not design programs. I've been a huge advocate for personal work ever since my days at university. It seems like I've always done some kind of personal work or design work without a brief. I think it's very important for designers to be able to create their own stuff regardless of if a boss or a client or whatever is telling them. And that is probably why I lean more into the idea that I think it's more art. Doing personal work has afforded me so many opportunities. It's allowed me to develop my skills, it's allowed me to develop my style, and just keep the passion and fun into graphic design for me. It makes it so I can stay fresh, and even if I'm having a bad time with a client or at work or with content, I know I can always fall back on my personal work and have something fun to create.
Give me a sec. This shit's too bomb.
Design should also be for yourself and not just for a client or to solve problems or to make money for a company. I think the best designers are people who do personal work and do stuff and use their design skills to make fun things, whether it's personal passion projects or just cool, fun stuff. I also think doing personal work is a great way to connect your other interests together. For example, my salsa verde spilled. For example, I'm doing a series where I'm redesigning a hardcore album for each letter of the alphabet. And that's something where I can marry my love for hardcore music and graphic design. And I think personal work allows us to explore that, whether we have the opportunity to do that in real, in a real sense or not. And it also shows people the type of work that you want to be doing, the skills that you have, and just the type of things that you want to be hired for. A lot of the work that clients reference that they like that I did for, a reference for their own project was personal work. And before I had a lot of client opportunities or had stuff to do like content and this and that, all I did was personal work because it just made me a better designer. Like the artist and design debate, I also made an entire video about this, so I'll link that in the description if you want to check it out too. I strongly believe designers need personal passion projects. One thing you can do to start is do some kind of series. Like I said, the alphabet thing, I've done a series of collage stuff where I was mixing alcoholic drinks with skaters. I've also done a series of redesigning punk albums in the style of Blue Note, which was I called Black Note. Whatever your interests are, make design out of that. Music, outdoors, art, whatever. Personal work, quite honestly, also really helped me develop my style. I love leaning into like heavy typographic stuff with edited imagery, and I don't think I would have had the opportunity to do a lot of that more experimental stuff unless I was just doing it for myself. It was always seen as like too far out there for some clients or some more corporate stuff, and ironically enough, that's the stuff I get approached for the most nowadays. So it's like any skill, the more you use it, the more it gets better. And I didn't have a client project to work on every week or every day of every year. It's just, I don't know, I can't stress enough how important it is to do design for yourself and when no one else is asking you I think it just makes you love design more, makes you a better designer, and makes you better at working on client projects that come in the future. I'm gonna smash this last taco and get out of here. So my last lesson is generalist first, specialist second. And what I mean by that is I think when you first start out, it's good to be a generalist in the design world, take in all the different types of things, work on UI, print design, typography, illustration, posters, album art. Try out all the different things and figure out what you like. And I think from there, you can figure out if you want to specialize in something, like specialize in typography, specialize in album art, branding, whatever. And for me, like I went through a lot of different eras, you know. In the beginning, I started doing a lot of branding and logo design and screen printing. And then I thought I wanted to do UI, UX and product design. And once I graduated, I started doing movie posters and working in agencies in Hollywood. And then I moved back to packaging design. Like I've been all over the place. And now that I feel like I've tried everything out, I can decide what I want to specialize on. And I think for that, for me, that's kind of type and layout and art direction and kind of just edited imagery and things like that. And when you try out all the different types of things, you'll realize what you're good at and what you're not so good at. For me, quite honestly, I was pretty bad always at drawing. So I leaned away from stuff that was more illustrative and things like that. That restriction of not being very good at drawing stuff helped my typographic work and image editing and layout, I think, thrive and get even better because I had to use that downside and figure out what I was good at. And then when I started to realize I was pretty good at that layout and type stuff, that is when I decided to kind of specialize more. And I think then you can lean into what you're already good at instead of trying to pick up all the slack on the things you may be lacking a little bit. So basically, don't worry too much about figuring out what you want to specialize in right away. And quite honestly, your specialty can be being a generalist also. That is not out of the question. Give yourself time to try everything out, figure out what you like, and then narrow it down and then go all in on the things that you want to be working on in the future. You'll start to get hired for the type of work that you want to be doing because you'll be consistently doing that type of work and putting it out there. Practice being a generalist first before you become a specialist. I really hope some of these ideas resonated with you, and good luck wherever you are in your design journey. And honestly, there's way more than just 10 ideas I've learned over the last 10 years, but I didn't want to make a 3-hour video. So if you have any of your own things to add to the conversation, feel free to drop it in the comments below. That's it for now, and I'll see you next time. Peace.